got those plants, those coleuses that are in that basket. I got them on clearance. And then I've got some bee balm, some cock's crown, some basil. And the weather right now, it's getting ready to storm. Wasn't able to rearrange my office like I wanted to, but the weather reminds me of when I was in Helen, Georgia. Do not mind my porch. I need a new porch, and I'm in the process of figuring that all out. It's about to go. Anyway, so I cleaned really, really good yesterday. There's my Lola girl. There's my little Francis. There's Nellie. Garden is what I'm trying to say. And then, of course, Hankopotamus. But I cleaned really, really good yesterday. Took down my little screen that I had that kind of separated. But, so here's the deal. That's the window that my AC unit goes in. And there's no plug there. We have to take and wrap around behind my antique hutch for a plug. So I was going to flip-flop, I was going to move the dog straight. And then I was going to take my desk. And I was going to move it over there. And it's not going to work because I don't have a plug. And then the AC unit goes there. Because I'm out of Freon in my central air. And I can't really afford it. So you improvise, right? But I did change out the paintings, and I'll flip this around because I got some things to say. But that's one of my paintings. And that is one of my paintings. I teach those classes. So anyway, we are back to this setup till I can figure something out, till I can get the central air unit filled with Freon and I can get a plug put in there. Also, another light fixture. I have a ceiling fan that goes up there. I just can't find anybody to put the ceiling fan in. And the ones that I have found, they want like $200, $300 to put in a basic ceiling fan. I'm like, well, not in this lifetime. Okay, let's see if I can. But this is usually like my setup. When you see me working, this used to be a dining area, but because nobody comes over anymore, just very basic, very plain, very clean. Someone once said, your house reminds me of your grandma's house. Well, yeah, kind of sort of does. But anyway, that's the house. Okay, let me get you situated here, and I'm going to turn this around, because there was a couple things that I want to talk about this morning. Let's see if this is going to do this. Hold on. Is it going to turn around? Oh. These live features, they have come so far. I'm on my phone, not the computer. I'll tell you what, the graphics setup in your phone is so much better than any laptop. But here's something that I want to know. They've got those tripods, 360s that follow you in any direction that you move. Why don't they have the ones that actually follow you, somewhat like a drone, but it's on a stand? So then that way, instead of like moving from this way to that way, it actually like will follow you through, like you have your own cameraman. You dig in the outfit of the day. I am going to go work in the yard before it rains, and it is getting ready to pour down rain. Got my little graphic tee. There's old Shook. Nellie. Her name is Shook. She's an Aussie hound. One blue eye, one brown eye. She acts really like a beagle. She barks at everything. I call her Nellie because when she was little, she was so wound up and she chased the boxer around. I'd always say, "Whoa, Nellie," and Nellie stuck. But her name is Shug. And I'm looking at all the comments and everything. I have the setting. I have the setting on where I have to review what is being said. So if I am not making any kind of a comment here, I'll try to go back in my laptop and do that. When you are going live, this is something I've noticed. When you are going live, you have some very odd people who want to come on and, make comments. And I don't appreciate any of that. I just don't. But anyway, I'm Kitryn Marie. I reside in St. Louis, Missouri. I am an artist, a writer, a speaker, life and a business coach, teach a variety of art and communication classes. No MD behind me, published off of When He Had Her, available on Amazon. I'm working on my second book, Seaside Shore. And it looks like you can leave a comment. Well, hello. Anyway, I tried not to pay attention to, a lot of that because it distracts the message. But like I said, the weather, it's getting ready to pour down rain. All my flowers and all my vegetables and everything are in. I can become, an addict when it comes to planting because I love having my hand in the dirt. That is the best therapy anybody can do. And it's a lot cheaper than actually going to a therapist, unless you want to take, of course, one of my art classes, which is like an art therapy kind of class. But I ran over to Walmart yesterday. They've got their big bags of mulch for $2 right now. I bought 5 bags yesterday, and then the day before I bought 2 bags. I probably still need a couple more bags, but that'll be enough to get me continuing what I had started a month ago. My potatoes are up this much, and they've got blossoms on them. My carrots are up about like this. I'm training my snap peas. I built like a little trellis, very makeshift. What else is in there? I've got some onions, garlic that I planted, but they said the garlic probably won't come up till next year. I just put it in the ground just to see what it was going to do, and nothing has come of it. But it had shoots on it about that much. I also have flowers in that in that garden bed because I like the variation of you have fruits, or you have vegetables, you have flowers, and then all the flowers bloom throughout the summer. I need to dig out some of the irises that are in there that did not bloom this year, probably because they're just root bound. And then I will put in the coleus, the cock's crown, and then I'm not real sure what I'm going to do with the basil yet. Usually I plant basil in my front window box. I planted seeds, 3 different variety of basil seeds, different seed companies, and nothing came up from the seeds. My neighbor up the block, who you heard me talk about probably a while back, had given me a bunch of seeds. Those seeds never came up either. Oh, I put peppers in and eggplants also because last year I had so many tomatoes and I was buying eggplant and I was making my own sauce. I swear, I want a farm stand, and I know I would sell out in my sauce. So this weather, like I said, it's humid. We don't have the air conditioner in the windows yet. I got, the floor fans going on. I'm just killing time. Hello, everyone who has come on. I'm just trying to kill time before I go out in the garden. I have to go into the second job today at 5 o'clock. So I thought I'll just throw myself together. I will do this and then go work in the garden till it rains. But this weather, it reminds me of Helen, Georgia. Have you been there? The mountains are treacherous. It's got a cute little Bavarian town in there, but you have to go up this mountain that goes like this. And when we were there, oh, I don't know, 4 years ago. I don't know. Time has gotten away over the last 5 years. Time is just, I don't know where it's all gone. But anyway, it rained. And this place that we were staying at, I'm reading what YouTube, sorry for the distraction. See, this is why I don't like having all of these comments here, and I don't know how to get rid of them. Yeah, I could live stream in the garden, and eventually I will. When I get my setup a little different, I will. Oh, my nose is running now. But anyway, in Helen, Georgia, it was raining like this. And we were driving at night. We had been driving for so long because it takes you through this part of the town. And because of the mountain and the rain and where we were staying, we couldn't find our Airbnb that we were staying at because it was in such a remote area. And then finally, by the time we got to our area where, the place we were staying, the incline of this place, needless to say, this little town is built on a mountain. And, it was like that, and the vehicle was having a hard time going up, and I thought for sure we were going over the side of the mountain, and that was the end of it. And somebody who has panic attacks on a regular basis, it was heart palpitating. But it was, in spite of the weather, in spite of the mountains, it was a nice little trip. I'm going to see if I can get rid of some of these. Can I do that? There we go. So, anyway, I'm just kind of rambling right now. But this weather, it reminds me of that trip. Let's see if I can do that. Okay, so anyway, what do you have going on today? What does your day look like? Are you sleeping in? Would have loved to have slept in this morning. Woke up about 3:30 this morning, wide awake. Then fell back to sleep about 4:30 and slept for about an hour. But I'm tired, very tired. I see I had 9 people on, and then 9 people went off. And I don't know exactly how this live works on YouTube. I don't usually do it, but because I am low on my phone, I am doing this. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about what to do when people walk out of your life. I'm an avid tarot card. I don't read the cards, but I love to listen to the different ones. And right now they're all saying somebody's life is in shambles. Somebody's life is crumbling. We're all going through something right now, so nothing surprises me at this point. Nothing surprises me at this point. So, what do you do when people walk out of your life? At this point in life, I don't chase, I only attract. And that's the way I feel about that. Knowing everything that I had gone through previous years, I don't fight for anything anymore. You think you want to do better somewhere else? Okay, go. Once you get to that other side, you'll be able to look back and you'll be able to see what you had and the life that you were living. And if you feel that life on the other side is going to serve you better, okay. What's meant for me is not going to go past me. What's meant for me will always find a way to return. And then the question is, and I'm asking you this question as the life coach who teaches the art therapy class, when that person returns, what are you going to say to them, and how many times has limerence played in your mind, and how many times have you rehearsed that conversation? How many times have you played both parts of that conversation of people who leave, people who return? And there was a country song that said, we love like a swinging door back and forth. And is that really healthy? But this is something that I do know about relationships. And I'm not an expert, believe me. I've been married one time, and that was a very, very long time ago. I am not a serial dater. Once I'm involved with somebody, I'm involved with somebody for a long time till apparently it doesn't work out, or, or it would continue on. That would go for you also. Hold on. But the toxic part of back and forth and back and forth, back and forth, you understand that is a control issue. Instead of finding ways to make the relationship work and mesh and compromise, you never settle. You never settle. You agree upon a standard, and then you each have to meet that standard. And then too many people who just leave, one, their ego has gotten in the way and they feel they can do better elsewhere, and they feel deprived where they need attention, very ego driven. Unless, of course, you're in a really, really bad relationship, you have no way out, and you become a serial cheater because your ego is always getting in the way. Or that person that just walks out of your life, they've reached their level of capacity. They can't go above that level of capacity. They have hit the ceiling of what they can contribute to the relationship, and because they no longer can control not only their own emotions, but they can't control the relationship anymore. What they have tried to manipulate within the relationship and what they have asked you to settle for, there is no place else to go other than to escape. And then at that point in time, it depends on who you are and what stage you are in your life. Are you willing to risk making a fool out of yourself, chasing somebody down that apparently doesn't want to be with you because they can't meet that standard? We talk about that a lot in my vision board class, my life coaching vision board class, when we talk about relationships and how many times you have chased after something and what was really the outcome of it. Because until that situation is kind of resolved, if it ever gets resolved, you have to know, if someone wants to walk out your life, really, just let them go. You go do your thing, let them do their thing, and let's see how well the other side of their life has turned out for them, because odds are those that keep walking out the door, they've got it embedded in their head for a safety net, and they continue to do the same thing all the time. They reach a certain point in the relationship, and then the old patterns always return. People really don't change. They don't change unless they know that the life that they are living, the life that is in shambles, the life that is crumbling, the life that is an absolute train wreck, they realize, hey, I can't live like this anymore. And what is it that I'm going to have to do for myself to reach a higher standard? I've seen too many women chase after things, fighting for things. Why would you fight to be cheated on? Why would you fight to be, fight for the relationship when you've been cheated on, when you've been betrayed, when you've been abused, when you've been taken advantage of, when you've been drained financially because you gave everything up to be with this one human being because they couldn't do it on their own? Is it worth it? What are you chasing? What are you fighting for? And then, you flip to another side, and we have men, out of the goodness and the gracious of their heart, they honestly believe that they are doing the best that they can, but the bar keeps raising because they can't continue to meet a standard that they just don't have within them. So in order to have that miserable comfort zone, they retreat back to the life that they've always lived, the way that they've always done something. They know they can't commit past a certain point, and as much as they tell themselves they want the long haul, there's something in them that won't let them go past that capacity that they have met. They've reached their ceiling. I have always said this, when a man's financial house is not where it needs to be, when a man's job has gotten the best of him emotionally, mentally, and it's taking a physical toll, they are doing everything that they can just to try to maintain because they need that financial security. And they refuse to give in to the fact that the job that they are doing no longer is suffice to who they are. And they won't go outside of that ceiling that they have set for themselves to try to do anything different. Where with a woman, if her heart house, her emotional house is not in place, everybody else's life is going to be miserable. Everybody else, because she's trying to find that place in her heart. She's trying to separate the logical part that says, this is what I want, this is what I need, and her heart is saying, why can't I get what I deserve? Why can't I get that emotion fulfilled? Why can't my personal and emotional need be met? And honestly, unless that relationship can come to an absolute agreement and that man is knowing exactly what her heart wants and he understands the logical part in her head, especially if she's an independent woman and she has done everything on her own and it has been a struggle up to the day that they meet, to the day that he walks out their life. It's a difficult decision to relinquish, to hand over anything. And if that man does not understand that capacity and that ceiling, there's always going to be that swinging door. There's always going to be that control that can never be contained. And I do talk about that a lot in my vision board class. I think we all get to a point in our life, and being 65, and the young girl that I work with, she always says, do you think you'll settle down? And I laugh first, and then I always say, settle down to what? Settle down to, I can't live any less than the way that I have lived most of my life, because I'm not a materialistic kind of person. I'm not impressed by money. I'm not impressed by titles. I like experiences. I like adventures. And if there isn't anybody who can have the same need or the same level of wanting to have something on that other side, I just can't see it. We all, I think, get to a point where we almost have everything. We almost have everything we've desired, everything we've ever made to believe that we need in our life. And then for some crazy reason, because of old tapes that play in a person's mind, the way that they can't control their own personal emotions, because mostly a man, and somebody can disagree with me if they want, but once a man understands, in order for him to remain in control, that means he has to keep his emotions in control. And depending on the generation that he was raised in, most men still don't feel they can be emotional. And you have a woman who is nothing but emotional, which sometimes leads into, irrational behavior and feelings, and everything gets out of control. The man can't control his own emotions because that means he needs to be vulnerable. He needs to be able to be truthful about his own feelings, articulate what he's feeling, and God forbid he fall apart and be emotional. How does that make him look? Because in his mind is like, well, I'm a man and I'm not supposed to fall apart. Where a woman is looking at him like, well, why aren't you being strong? Why can't you, maintain your emotions? Why can't you control your temper? Why can't you understand why you're so angry? And then you have a woman who's, got logic and heart trying to separate, and her whole life becomes unglued because she's fighting for something that's nothing but a swinging door, back and forth, back and forth. And if she's already given everything she has to a man because he equates that love with something being transactional, she's just losing her life. She's losing her emotions. She's lost all control of anything emotionally, mentally, physically, and financially to somebody who's just tried to manipulate and gaslight and control the whole situation. And there are just some things within me. I've set a boundary. I'm not giving anything up unless it is matched, unless somebody is meeting my standard and understanding there is a level way past the capacity that most never get past. And I do talk about that very much in my life coaching class, putting a vision board together. But I've been on here now 25 minutes and 37 seconds. Hasn't rained yet. Might be able to go out and put them plants in. Got to be careful. I keep pulling out my back really, really bad. And when I'm carrying a tray at my outside gig, I have to be very careful how I'm carrying that tray, because if I pull my back out in the garden, it's going to be really ugly on the floor of the restaurant. And tonight, it's all I have to do is wear a penguin suit, stand in place for 4 hours, and pray the event goes relatively smoothly. But if you are interested in learning more about how to put a vision board together based in life coaching, talking about you being a product of your environment, talking about your emotions, talking about how you separate your head from your heart, because oftentimes your brain wants to go one way and your heart wants to go another way. What are you fighting for? What are you looking for at this point in your life? Do you even recognize your own ceiling capacity? Do you know how far you only allow yourself to go and then you have to retreat? A lot of that comes from abandonment issues from when you were a kid. A lot of it comes from watching your mom and dad and watching the struggles, depending on the generation that your mom and dad have come from. I was listening this morning, and I'm digressing a little bit. Each generation, the silent generation that was before the baby boomers, then there's Gen X, and then there's millennials, and then it goes on and on and on. Depending on what generation your mother and father came from, and your grandmother and grandfather, it very much has had an impact on who you are and what you have witnessed and how your house, your home is put together. And I don't mean like aesthetics, but it's like, what are you willing to accept and what will you tolerate in your environment because of what you have witnessed? What is that dynamic relationship that your mother and father had that you saw? Was your father abusive? Was your father controlling? Was your father an alcoholic? Was your father a narcissist? And did your mother have to cave in order to make sure his emotions and his anger wasn't controlled, therefore neglecting however many kids had come along in the relationship? Because it always was, I am the man, this is my house, this is how we're going to do it, and women did not have a voice. Women just kind of caved. They, submitted to the generation that they were in, and it was only up until the 70s when women started really to have a voice, when women really started to think, I would like to have a little bit of a life for myself. And then it was later in the 80s when we got to the whole Gen X group, they were latchkey kids. Moms and dads were getting a divorce. They were left to fend for themselves. They were babysitting their younger siblings. They were cooking dinner. They were taking care of the house. And as you grow up, you hold all that resentment because somewhere along the line, your emotional needs were neglected. And that very much carries out as you become an adult getting into a relationship. And somewhere along the line, all logic gets thrown out the window. Why can you not just pay attention to me? Why can you not give me what I need? When the fact of it is, you have to understand your environment. You have to understand you are a product of it. And you have to understand, looking back, they did what they needed to do in order to survive. And it's up to you as an individual to be able to articulate what is it that you need? What is it you are looking for? What is it that you want to put together in your home? Because at this point in our life, knowing the kind of life we are all living, when we leave the house, we want stability. We want peace. We want tranquility. We want to know that we have safety physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. We want to know when we come home, there's not going to be any fighting. There's not going to be any arguing. There's not going to be a matter of control other than who may have the remote for the TV. But you have to stop and think about your own life. You have to stop and think about what are you a product of? How have you ran all of your life? From jobs to relationships to situations to family dynamics, because you could not go past that capacity, that ceiling that you set for yourself, because you needed that measure of safety. In order for you to regulate an emotion, you needed a retreat. And then once you got that retreatedness, what pattern did you fall back into because it was just a miserable comfort zone? If you would like to learn more about any of the classes that I teach, reach out Kitryn, Kitryn, Marie at gmail.com. The vision board class is $65. It's a cut and paste art project. You provide all the materials. If you want a painting class, it's $48. It is a group class. You supply all of your friends, your location, although I do have a venue on a Sunday night that you can come to. I bring all the materials for the art classes. Maybe you want to start a side hustle. Maybe you're tired of 9 to 5. Maybe you're getting ready to retire, but you still need to make some income. Reach out. I do also business coach for creative-minded women who want to take their gift, their talent, and learn to monetize their hobby. But for today, for tomorrow, be happy, be blessed, be thankful for everything. Remember, fate turns on a dime, and it is up to you to decide what side of the coin you want to be on. So flip the coin. Gonna get out, do some ground therapy before it rains. Looks like it might be drizzling. But y'all take care, and I will see you real soon. And all that popped on today, thanks. I'll go back over on my laptop to look to see what all the comments were. But you enjoy your day, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.